You always feel less of yourself. You always feel like you're not enough. You always feel like every other person is better than you are. You are depressed. It could just mean there's a misalignment in your life. Hi, welcome to Intentional Living with Meb. Those negative emotions you feel, the anger, the shame, the fear, the anxiety, that feeling of rejection and discouragement, are not always your enemies. Yes, in fact, they can even become more of an ally to you than they are enemies to you. Over time, we've learned that the feelings of those things are bad and we should have nothing to do with them. But I'm here to prove you wrong. Now, I'm not saying you should go ahead and stop negative emotions and live perpetually in negativity. But before you get rid of those emotions, they can actually be telling you something about your life, which when you work on, you can actually produce a better version of yourself. So today I'll be sharing with you 5 things those negative emotions could be telling you. The first thing, negative emotions could be pointing to your values and a need for boundaries. If I ask you, what are your life's values? What are your core values? On what principles do you live your life? One of the ways you can actually find out what your values are is to discover those things that get you really upset. So most times when you find yourself getting angry, agitated, and irritated at people, it could either mean they are living a life against your values, yeah, or they are crossing lines in your own life. So for me, I found I always got angry whenever someone is rude to me, or whenever someone is unethical or acting so crude and mannerless and not even trying to honor other people as they should honor all humans, right? So I find myself getting angry whenever people behave like that. And I came to realize that courtesy and good manners were actually big deal for me. And then what I did with that feeling was to always ensure that I treated other people with courtesy and I was polite to people and I respected people. Yeah, I started to make sure I did that whenever I related with others, right? And it also helped me set better boundaries in my relationships. I was able to let people know, I don't want you replying me this way. When I call you and you see my call, could you kindly return it? Don't just leave my call hanging. Because I found out that those things got me angry. That was how I got to understand a unique core value in my life. So next time you find yourself angry at people for something they did or something they did not do, you want to probe that anger. It could mean that those people were either crossing a line or crossing a territory that you wouldn't want them to cross, or they're violating your core values. Most times when we have core values for ourselves, we subconsciously want other people to live by those values as well, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, right? It's when you start to project yourself or start to compel people to live that way for themselves. That's where the problem lies. The second thing your negative emotions could actually be telling you about yourself are your innate desires. When you think about envy, we think bad, we think, okay, envy is something, you will never ever have envy in your heart. Yes, don't store up envy in your heart. But when you start to envy someone, hear me out. Or when someone achieves something and probably they're celebrating that thing and you find yourself getting envious of them, it could be that you also have things in your heart that you desire to happen for you that are not happening for you. Yeah, that's why you're envious. Because logically speaking, when you have everything you desire, which of course there might not be any given point in your life where you have everything you desire, right? But let's assume that's impossible. Moments can happen and you have everything you want in life, all the things you want to happen for you, all the things you want to have, the kind of person you want to be, you have it already manifested. Would you have any reason to envy someone else? I guess not. So when you find yourself envying someone, before you trash that emotion or that feeling of envy, you want to ask yourself, does it seem like I want something like this? Or do I have things in my life that I'm yet to get, to achieve, that I would love to achieve? When you ask that question, what you want to do then is to start to outline things you could start doing to get to that point that is in your heart, to accomplish that desire in your heart, right? So that's what you want to do with envy whenever you feel it. Ask yourself, could there be something in here that I want? Probably someone who just got a better offer or a better job or just built a new house and you find yourself envying them. You ask yourself, do I want a home of my own? Do I need to leave my current job to get something better? Then you ask, what can I start to do now? How do I start to invest my funds so that I can save up for a new home or save up for a better place? Or how do I start to invest in my expertise, right? So that I can land that job that I'm looking for. So next time you feel envy, this is what you want to do with it before you throw it in the trash. Thirdly, negative emotions could be pointing to a need for growth in your life, right? When you feel some negative emotions, it could actually be pointing to an area of your life where you need to grow, where you probably need to do better, right? So, for example, when you feel guilty about something you did, right, or something you did not do, that guilt is actually pointing to the fact that that thing you did was actually misaligned to who you are, right? Or it did not align to the values on which you live your life, right? It did not align with the kind of person you call yourself. So, what that calls for is you being able to find ways you can start to align your actions, right? Your words, right? Even your inactions with who you say you are or who you believe you are. Now, the feeling of shame could actually also be telling you that you need to grow, right? So probably you acted in a way before people and you're ashamed of what you did, or you're ashamed of something that happened, even something that wasn't your fault that happened in your past. When you start to feel shameful toward them, it actually means you need to grow out of your past, right? You need to turn away from living in what has happened in the past and start to focus your attention to what lies ahead of you, right? Regret would actually come from an opportunity you've missed. For example, you were supposed to apply for something and you procrastinated and procrastinated until that offer got closed, and now you're regretting not applying. So instead of drowning in that feeling of regret, what you want to do is to sit down and start to strategize ways you can deal with procrastination in your life so that you don't get to miss other opportunities and you don't get to feel regret in future. When you're dealing with fear, particularly the fear of the unknown, you're afraid, you don't know what might happen tomorrow, you don't know what might happen next week, you don't know what might happen with your health, with your finances. It could actually be pointing to the fact that you're out of touch with your source. So if you're a Christian, it means that you've lost touch with God, with who God is and who you are in God. When you stay in touch with who you are in God, the promises God has made concerning your life and the promises God has given you as an individual, you will not harbor fear. You will not be afraid. You will not be fearful for tomorrow or for what will happen or what will not happen. So whenever you get these negative emotions, what you want to do is probe them to see if there could be opportunities for growth, or if a lack of growth in any area of your life could be causing them. The fourth thing your negative emotions could be telling you, your negative emotions could be telling you that it's time to birth something. It's time to create something. It's time to do something. You have this idea that has been on your heart for a long time and you've not started working on it. It's just sitting there lying fallow, and all of a sudden you start to feel restless. You start to feel this discomfort. Sometimes you even start to feel a void. It happens to me a lot. When there's something I ought to do and I've not started to do it, sometimes I start to feel restless. And when I see other people doing stuff, I start to get this feeling of, okay, I'm not really doing enough with my life. Those emotions or those feelings are not great. They're not great feelings, right? So instead of discarding them, you want to check and see if there's something you ought to be doing with your life that you're not doing with your life. You have to check if there's an idea that you received or that you got a long time ago and you just shelved it instead of working on it. Sometimes you don't even need to discard the feeling of restlessness or that feeling of not being enough. Once you start working on those things, or once you birth that thing you ought to birth, once you create that thing, it just goes away naturally. And before I go into this last one, if you're still watching to this point, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave a comment. I want to know your experiences with negative emotions, and if you've been able, or if you are going forward, start to probe those emotions right before you get rid of them. Lastly, those negative emotions could be pointing to a misalignment in your life. So you're probably in a relationship with someone and you just have this feeling in your gut that this isn't right. And most times that feeling in your gut could actually escalate to maybe anger. You're lashing out angrily all the time. You're raising your voice. Sometimes you're moody, you are depressed. It could just mean there's a misalignment in your life. It could mean you need to leave that relationship, right? You get to work and you can't even produce good work. You always feel less of yourself. You always feel like you're not enough. You always feel like every other person is better than you are. It could be pointing to a misalignment. You're probably in the wrong job, working with the wrong team. We know when it comes to things like jobs and employment, it can be sometimes way beyond your control, but persistent negative emotions in those settings, right, could be pointing to a misalignment. You're among the wrong friends, you're in the wrong circle, you're in the wrong environment, you are attending the wrong church. Is there a wrong church? Maybe. So whenever you start to feel persistent, and I'm saying persistent, like you've tried to do something about the anger or the consistent lashing out on people and those other things that have just refused to go, then you need to check to ensure that you are not in the wrong place or doing the wrong thing or with the wrong people. The next time you feel negative emotions, I want you to ask yourself 3 questions. What is causing me to feel this way? What made me angry? What made me moody? What made me upset? Secondly, what is this emotion trying to bring to my attention? Lastly, what can I do about the cause of this feeling? When you ask yourself those questions and answer them reflectively, you're definitely going to hear what those emotions are saying to you and make the necessary changes to become a better version of you. And like I said, when you work on these things, your negative emotions are telling you, you might not need to even make any deliberate effort to get rid of them. They would go naturally. They would fizzle out. And the best thing is they won't come back in future, especially concerning that particular thing, right? Because you've already dealt with its root cause. I hope you've learned a lot from this video. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I hope I'll see you in my next video. Do take care of yourself. Bye.